The unwanted punishment. The hall of judgment was filled with cold light. Tall alien figures sat in their seats, their eyes sharp and merciless. They whispered among themselves about the crime of the noblewoman, who stood in chains at the center. Her head was high, but her hands trembled slightly. She was born to power, raised in pride. Never before had she bowed to anyone. Her kind ruled their worlds with arrogance. But today the council had found her guilty. Her voice had challenged them. Her defiance had embarrassed them. And now they wanted her to pay in a way no one of her blood had ever paid before. "You will be given to a human," the judge said slowly, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You will marry him as punishment. You will live with him, obey him, share his name, and be bound by his touch." A gasp ran through the room. The punishment was worse than death, for to her people humans were considered low, weak, strange, unworthy. Her cheeks burned with shame, but she forced her eyes to remain steady. She would not let them see her fear. The guards pulled her forward, her chains clinking, her steps echoing on the cold floor. Outside, the crowd jeered and mocked, their voices like knives in her heart. She remembered the stories told to frighten children, stories of humans who smelled of iron and smoke, humans who touched with rough hands and spoke in blunt words. In her mind, she swore she would never break, never beg, never submit. They brought her across the stars to a small human settlement on a green world. The air was different here, the sky brighter. She hated the smell of flowers carried on the wind, hated the way the birds sang as if the world had no sorrow. The human waited outside a modest house, his figure tall but not terrifying, his eyes calm and unreadable. He wore simple clothes, nothing like the grand armor or robes she expected from someone holding her fate. When he looked at her, she felt her heart stumble for a single beat, not from desire but from confusion. There was no cruelty in his eyes, no hunger to see her broken. Instead, there was something she could not name, something that unsettled her more than anger would have. "This is your new husband," the guard sneered, shoving her forward. "Take her. She is your punishment as much as you are hers." The human did not answer the guard. He only stepped closer and touched the chains gently. The metal clicked and fell away. She stared in shock. She had expected him to tighten them, to drag her into his home like property. Instead, he freed her. "You are tired," he said softly. "Come inside. There is food and water." She froze, unable to speak, her throat tight with shame and rage. This was not how it was meant to be. She wanted him to be cruel, to give her reason to hate him, to make it easy for her pride to burn. But his gentle words were worse. They confused her, tore at her defenses. She spat at the ground. "I will not eat your food, human. I will not bow to you." He only nodded, not angered. "Then rest. You do not have to bow inside." The house was plain, walls of wood, the smell of bread in the air, a small fire burning in the corner. It was nothing like the shining palaces she had known, and yet there was warmth here, warmth that gnawed at her anger. She sat stiffly in the corner, watching him move quietly, his hands steady as he poured water into a cup and set it near her. He did not force her, did not command her. He simply left it within reach. Night fell. The stars outside seemed closer on this strange human world. Her body ached from the journey, her mind from the humiliation. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, every word of the council's sentence echoing in her head. "Marry a human, obey him, share his touch." She shivered, not from cold but from fear of the unknown. She remembered the gentle way he had removed her chains, the calm in his eyes. She hated that memory, hated that part of her heart had not felt disgust, but something else she dared not name. She whispered to herself in the dark, "I will not break, I will not yield, I will never want him." Yet her voice trembled, and the silence that followed was heavier than chains. The strange kindness morning light spilled through the small window. The alien woman opened her eyes slowly, her body still heavy with exhaustion. She expected the human to be standing over her, demanding obedience, but instead, the house was quiet. She sat up quickly, suspicious. Her sharp eyes scanned the room. On the table rested a plate of food, bread and fruit. Steam still rose from a cup nearby. He had left it for her. She frowned, her pride fighting with the hunger in her stomach. Outside, she heard him chopping wood, each strike echoing like a drumbeat. His strength was obvious, but there was no cruelty in the sound. It was the rhythm of someone working, not of someone preparing punishment. Her stomach growled. She cursed under her breath, slowly, unwillingly. She reached for the bread. Every bite felt like betrayal. Betrayal of her pride, betrayal of her vow never to accept anything from him. Yet the warmth of the food eased her pain. The door opened. He entered carrying wood on his shoulder, his shirt damp with sweat. He set the wood down and glanced at her. Their eyes met for a moment. She quickly looked away. Good, he said softly, noticing the empty plate, but he did not smile, did not mock her. He simply turned to tend the fire. She clenched her fists, anger rising again. Why do you act like this? You think your fake kindness will make me obey? He looked at her calmly. No, I do not want obedience. I want peace. His words hit her harder than chains. Peace. What human spoke of peace? Her people said humans were born for violence, that they lived for conquest, yet this one lived in a quiet house, chopping wood, baking bread, speaking gently. Her pride screamed at her to resist, but her heart whispered questions she did not want to ask. Days passed, each one testing her in ways she did not expect. She refused his food but ate it when he was not looking. She insulted him but found herself listening when he spoke. His voice steady like stone, his presence strangely calming. One evening, as the sun sank low, she tried to slip away. She could not bear this silence any longer. She would rather die free than live with this shame. She crept into the forest, moving quickly. But the land was strange, shadows thick, roots twisting under her feet. Then came the sound, a low growl, glowing eyes between the trees. Creatures unlike any she had seen before. Their teeth sharp, their hunger clear. Fear clutched her chest. She stumbled back. The beast leapt. But before its claws touched her, a strong arm caught her, the human he had followed. His body moved faster than her eyes could follow. His axe swung. The beast fell silent. His hand touched her shoulder, steadying her. Are you hurt? She froze. His hand was warm, not rough, not cruel. For the first time she felt the weight of his touch. And it was not punishment, not shame, it was protection. Her heart pounded, not from fear, but from something dangerous. Something she could not name. Why save me? She whispered, voice shaking. You should have let them tear me apart. Because life is not a punishment, he said simply. Not yours, not mine. His words burned in her mind. She pulled away quickly, anger her only shield. Do not touch me again, human. But as she walked back beside him, the memory of his touch refused to fade. That night she could not sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she remembered the moment his hand rested on her shoulder, remembered the sound of his calm voice, remembered how her heart had betrayed her with a tremble. Her people had sentenced her to shame, but here in this small house with this strange man, she felt something more dangerous than shame. She felt doubt. And in that doubt a fire flickered, small but growing. The breaking of walls. The days that followed felt like war inside her. On the outside she kept her pride sharp, her words cruel, her stare cold. But inside something shifted, something she hated. The human did not chain her, did not shout at her, did not force her. Instead he worked quietly, gathering wood, tending the garden, fixing the roof when rain threatened to leak. Every action calm, steady, unshaken by her anger. She tried again and again to break him with words. You are weak, human. You are nothing but dirt under my feet, she spat. He only looked at her, his eyes steady. Then stand on your own feet and see where they take you. His calmness was worse than anger. It cracked the walls she had built, and she hated that. One night, storm winds screamed outside. Lightning split the sky. She sat in the corner, arms wrapped around her knees, pretending she was not afraid. But the storm's voice clawed into her chest. A loud crash shook the house. The door burst open with the force of wind. The human rushed out. She shouted at him, but her voice drowned in thunder. He fought the storm, securing the roof, dragging in supplies, his strength clear in every movement. She stood frozen, watching him risk himself to keep the house safe. To keep her safe, the thought pierced her like a blade. Why would he fight the storm for her? When he came back soaked, hair plastered to his face, he simply asked, Are you all right? She wanted to scream, wanted to throw his words back at him, but her voice betrayed her, soft, trembling. Yes. Later that night, the storm grew worse, the walls shook. She woke to the sound of growls outside. Shadows circled the house, not the storm this time, but beasts, many of them. Drawn to the light and warmth, the human grabbed his axe, his body tense. Stay here, he said firmly, but something inside her cracked. She could not watch him fight alone. She rushed out after him, the cold rain cutting her skin. The beasts lunged, teeth flashing, claws tearing at the mud. He struck fast, one fell, then another. But more came, too many. She felt fear grip her, real fear for his life without thinking. She picked up a fallen branch, fire in her chest. She swung at the nearest beast, striking its head. Her blood burned as she stood at his side. Her pride forgotten, her hatred drowned in the storm. When the last beast fell, silence swallowed the night. Only the storm remained. She collapsed to her knees, chest heaving, her hands shaking. He touched her arm gently, steadying her. You fought well, he said softly. Her breath caught, her eyes wide. She pulled back quickly, fear rising again, but it was not fear of him. It was fear of herself, fear of the fire growing inside. She turned away, clutching her chest, whispering to herself, "This is wrong. This cannot be." But no matter how many times she repeated the words, she could not erase the memory of standing beside him, fighting not as prisoner and jailer, not as alien and human, but as two lives bound by the same storm. The walls around her heart, built with pride and anger, had cracked, and through those cracks a dangerous light poured in. She lay awake as dawn came, unable to sleep. The human rested quietly, his breathing steady, and she hated herself for staring too long, hated the warmth that spread in her chest. Punishment was meant to break her, but something else was happening, something more powerful and deep inside. She feared the truth. She was no longer afraid of him, she was afraid of what she was becoming. The fire within, the council had expected her to return broken, crawling, her pride crushed beneath human hands, but rumors had reached them. Whispers carried across the stars, whispers that the alien noblewoman had not resisted her human jailer the way they had hoped. Spies reported that she had fought beside him during the storm, that she had been seen walking at his side, not in chains but in freedom. The council's anger grew. Their punishment was failing, and worse, it was turning into something else. They called a gathering, voices sharp with fury. "She is betraying us," one hissed. "The human has poisoned her mind," another growled. "If she stays longer, she will forget her blood." Their decision was quick, cold. Bring her back, alive or dead, back on the human's world. She felt the weight of unseen eyes, shadows that lingered too long, footsteps that faded when she turned. Something was coming, she could feel it. The human noticed her unease. "They will come for you," he said quietly one night, sharpening his axe by the fire, his face calm but his eyes steady. "Your people will not let you stay." She looked at him, her voice sharp though her heart trembled. "And if they come, what will you do?" He met her eyes without fear. "Fight for you." The word struck her harder than any blow. No one had ever said that to her, not even her own kind. She turned away quickly, hiding the fire in her chest. The attack came sooner than expected. A ship cutting through the clouds, guards pouring out with weapons gleaming, their voices harsh. "Traitor!" They spat at her. "Come with us. Your shame ends tonight." The human stepped forward, axe in hand, his stance steady. "She is not your prisoner anymore," the guards laughed. "She is not yours either, human. Step aside or die." Her heart pounded. Her pride screamed at her to remain silent, to let them see her as strong. But the sight of him standing against armed warriors for her alone shattered the last wall inside her. When the guards lunged, she moved before she could think, placing herself between him and their blades, her arms spread wide, her voice breaking. "No, you will not touch him." The guards froze, shock in their eyes. The noblewoman they had sentenced, the one meant to be humiliated, now stood a shield for a human. Rage filled their voices. "You betray your blood, your people, your honor." Her body shook, but her voice grew stronger. "Honor?" she shouted. "You call it honor to break me, to chain me, to throw me away as punishment? No, I have seen more honor in his hands than in your council's throne." The human touched her arm, pulling her gently behind him. Ready to fight, but she did not step back. She would not hide. The guards raised their weapons. Tension filled the air. Lightning cracked in the sky as if the heavens themselves held their breath. For the first time in her life, she chose not pride, not fear, but fire. She turned to the human, her eyes fierce. "I will not let them take you." The words left her lips before she could stop them. A confession born in battle, the guards charged, and together, human and alien fought side by side once more, her blade meeting theirs, his axe cleaving through the chaos, their movements in rhythm, as if bound by something greater than punishment. When the last guard fell, silence settled heavy over the land, the ship retreating into the stormy sky. Breathless, bloodied, she looked at him, her chest burning. "They will send more," she whispered. He nodded, his voice steady. "Then we will stand again, for the first time." She did not say you, she said we, and deep inside she felt the fire rise higher, unstoppable, no longer shame, no longer confusion, but something that scared her more than any counsel. Desire. Punishment had become destiny, and destiny had become dangerous. The choice beyond punishment. The battle was over, but the war was not. The council's soldiers had fallen, yet the sky itself still carried the threat of return. The alien woman sat by the fire, her body aching, her hands still trembling from the fight. The human sat across from her, quiet as always, his eyes calm even though blood stained his clothes. For the first time she allowed herself to stare at him, not with anger, not with pride, but with something else, something that made her chest tighten. She remembered the council's words, marry him as punishment, obey him, share his touch. Those words had once been chains, but now they sounded different, like a prophecy she could not escape. The next day the sky split open again. Another ship descended, larger than before, armored and armed. The council had come themselves. The ground shook as they landed, their voices cold, echoing across the field. Enough. You belong to us. Your punishment was meant to shame you, not bind you to this human. You will come now, or both of you will die. She stood tall, her chest heavy with fear but her heart burning with fire. The human stepped forward, axe ready, but she touched his arm, stopping him. This is not his fight anymore, she whispered, her voice trembling but steady. This is mine. The council stared at her, their eyes sharp. You would betray your blood for him? A human? Her voice rose, every word cutting through the air. You call it betrayal, I call it truth. You sentenced me to him as punishment. But in his hands I found more honor, more strength, more life than I ever found in your halls of power. The council's leader sneered. Then you choose him? Her heart pounded, her breath caught. This was the moment, the final wall, the choice that would define her forever. She looked at the human, his face calm, waiting, not forcing, not pleading, only trusting her choice. That trust broke the last chain around her heart. She stepped forward, her voice steady. Yes, I choose him. The council roared in fury, weapons raised, the air thick with rage. But before they could strike, she spread her arms wide, standing before the human once more. You will not touch him if you want his life. You will take mine first. For a moment the world froze, thunder silent, wind still. The council hesitated, because in that single act she had broken their punishment. She had turned shame into devotion, and devotion into power. The human stepped beside her, his axe in hand, his voice firm. She is not your prisoner. She is my partner. The word echoed like thunder. Partner. Not property, not punishment, but equal. The council knew then they had lost her. No chain could bring her back. No threat could erase what had awakened inside her. Their leader hissed, "You will regret this," then turned sharply. The ship lifted into the sky, vanishing into the clouds. Silence fell, broken only by the crackle of fire. She stood there, her chest heaving, tears burning in her eyes. She had chosen, and the choice had changed everything. The human looked at her, his hand gentle as it touched hers, not as a master, not as a savior, but as a man who had walked beside her through storm and battle. She did not pull away this time. Her fingers trembled, but they stayed in his. She whispered, almost too soft for the wind to hear. They thought this was punishment, but it was the only gift I ever received. The fire inside her no longer scared her. It burned bright, steady, alive. She was no longer a prisoner, no longer a victim of her people's pride. She was something new, something stronger, and in his presence she was free. And as the stars lit the sky, she knew the council would return one day, with more ships, with more fury. But she no longer feared them, because punishment had given her destiny, and destiny had given her love.